I'm a 57-year-old man, and I've been married to the woman who was the love of my life for 26 years. Let's call her Lucy. We were college friends, and we knew each other for a decade before getting married. During those 10 years, we spent 2 years as friends, a year of me pursuing her, and the remaining 7 years dating. There were even a few years of long distance in those 7 years when we lived in different cities for work reasons. Our relationship endured the challenge of time and distance. Lucy wasn't just my wife and the mother of my children, she was also my closest friend since college. She understood me like no one else. That's why her betrayal shattered me. About a week ago, Lucy and I attended our college reunion. Our college holds a reunion every year for the classes that graduated 35 years ago. It's a big event with singers and celebrities performing, alumni eagerly anticipated each year. This year, it was our class's turn to shine. We and our fellow classmates were excited to reconnect and see how we had all changed over the years. Lucy and I were particularly thrilled because we were one of the few college couples who had married and stayed together for so long. We walked into the event eager to show off our strong relationship. Little did I know that I was walking into a trap of my own making. We were having a wonderful time reconnecting with some of our dearest friends after many years. It felt like the best moments of our lives until someone approached us. We'll call him Rick. Rick had always been an admirer of Lucy, and everyone in our class was aware of his deep affection for her. Lucy was one of the brightest students in our class, and like any other attractive woman, she had her share of admirers in college. Yes, I was one of them too. However, Rick was not the type to just flirt, take a chance, and move on if the girl wasn't interested. He was the persistent type. He pursued Lucy throughout college and beyond. He didn't give up, even though he knew she was dating and in love with me. I've always been a secure partner and didn't let his advances affect our relationship. Rick, along with everyone else, knew that Lucy was way out of his league, but he never stopped trying. I remember when Rick found out that Lucy had married me. He actually texted me and claimed that Lucy had made a mistake. He went on to say that he hoped I would care for her as much as he would have. Lucy and I simply laughed at his childishness and romantic notions. We hadn't heard from him or spoken to him since that day until the day of the reunion. When Rick approached us, we thought he would have moved on by now. Considering it had been 35 years since college and 26 years since our marriage. However, to our surprise, he was still fixated on Lucy. He greeted all of us with hugs, and we reciprocated. However, Lucy opted to shake hands with him because his intense gaze made her uncomfortable. He took a seat across from Lucy and gave her an odd and intense stare, which didn't go unnoticed by anyone. I couldn't help but ask if he had brought his family to the reunion party. He replied that he was single. He mentioned that he had been briefly married in his 42nds but had gotten divorced. I expressed my sympathy, saying, "I'm sorry to hear that," to which he responded dramatically, "Well, yes, you should be sorry. You stole my love," followed by a burst of hysterical laughter. If I were in my 30 seconds, I might have considered physically confronting him, but as we're approaching our 60 seconds, such things no longer hold much importance. Besides, Rick isn't the intimidating type. He's more of a sleazy loudmouth guy you wouldn't pick for sports. Even though everyone heard his joke, no one responded, and you could feel others becoming uncomfortable, so we mostly brushed it off. However, Lucy became noticeably quiet. Nancy and I, Nancy is our close friend from college, took Lucy aside. We tried to lift her spirits, encouraging her to forget about the troublemaker and enjoy the rest of the evening. Knowing that Lucy tends to overthink things, we both attempted to ease her mind. Suddenly, Rick approached us out of the blue. I suspect he had been keeping an eye on us all along. To our surprise, he apologized, stating that he hadn't meant to upset her. Instead, he claimed he wanted to make her feel happy that despite the years of separation and the effects of aging on her appearance, she still had an admirer. I couldn't tolerate his cheesy words and told him to back off. He expressed genuine regret about causing discomfort. Lucy asked him to leave us alone, but he insisted that Lucy forgive him so we could enjoy the last gathering of our lives. Those words made me think it was time to put this behind us and move forward. That night was undoubtedly the final occasion for us to meet our old friends and classmates, so there was no point in dwelling on the past. Lucy hugged him and urged him to move on from her and let it go. We all hugged and headed to the dance floor to have fun at the party. Others joined us, and it turned into an enjoyable time. Later on, I noticed Nancy and Lucy talking to Rick, who was standing beside them. He was engaging in conversation and dancing in a comical manner, if that makes sense. I was relieved that this matter seemed to be resolved, and we could look back on it in a positive light. I kept an eye on them to ensure Lucy was okay. Rick was whispering something in her ear, and she smiled and nodded at him. I assumed it wasn't anything inappropriate, or else Lucy would have reacted differently. This gave me the green light to relax and enjoy myself with other friends and classmates. About an hour later, I noticed that Lucy and Nancy were nowhere to be seen. Initially, I didn't pay it much mind because we were all mingling separately. I too was catching up with other friends on my own. However, when they didn't reappear after some time, I began searching for them. I attempted to call them first, but they didn't answer. I realized the loud music might be drowning out the sound of their phones ringing. After roughly 30 minutes, Lucy returned, but something about her seemed off. There were no apparent changes in her appearance, but I had a distinct feeling that she was a different person. She became unusually quiet and kept urging me to leave. Nancy joined us shortly afterward, but Lucy and Nancy didn't exchange a single word throughout the night. I assumed they had argued about something because they avoided making eye contact. I repeatedly asked Lucy why she seemed irritated and wanted to leave early, but she remained silent. I wanted to stay until the end of the party, but Lucy insisted we leave early. Lucy remained silent throughout the entire journey back home, which lasted over an hour. I kept inquiring if she was okay, and she replied that she was just tired and needed rest. It left me feeling uneasy because she's usually the one brimming with energy, and seeing her upset without knowing the reason worried me. I asked if it had anything to do with Nancy, but she simply replied with a no, providing no further explanation. I assumed she was exhausted and left her alone when we arrived home. While most of our friends were posting happy pictures of the evening and chatting on social media, expressing their joy at the reunion and lamenting the possibility that it might be the last, Lucy slipped into bed with her eyes closed. I suppose she wanted me to believe she was asleep. Why do I say that? It was almost 2 a.m. when I went to bed. Utterly tired, I fell asleep as soon as I hit the mattress. I'm not sure how long I had been asleep when Lucy woke me up. She was in tears, resting her head on my chest. I held her close and asked if she was feeling emotional about reuniting with her old friends, but she didn't respond. She simply continued crying. I held her tightly to show my support, as that was the least I could do since she wasn't sharing what was troubling her. I allowed her to release her emotions, and when her tears finally stopped, she revealed something that left me stunned. She confessed that she had cheated on me with Rick. I was at a loss for words, unable to ask her anything further. I felt frozen in shock. Thoughts swirled in my mind about what might have transpired. The last time I saw Lucy, she was dancing with Rick and Nancy, along with others. Then the three of them disappeared for about an hour. When Lucy returned, she wore a gloomy expression and insisted on leaving the party. She mentioned that Nancy was aware of the situation, but she was clearly furious with Lucy, which explained her upset demeanor. I was still unable to speak, so as she observed my stunned state, she began explaining everything on her own. She recounted how, while they were dancing, Rick kept apologizing to her for the embarrassment he had caused her, especially after she had rejected his advances numerous times. He showered her with praise, claiming that in all his travels around the world, he had never encountered a woman as extraordinary as her. Lucy explained that she began to believe his compliments and fell for his apparent sincerity. He asked her if she would go for a walk with him. Initially, she declined, but he persisted, insisting it would be their last encounter and she deserved to know his true feelings for her. She wanted to hear what he had to say, so she agreed to accompany him for a walk on the college lawn, seeking peace and quiet. While on the lawn, Rick openly expressed his feelings, proclaiming his lifelong love for her and describing her as the most incredible woman on earth. She recounted various things he said, but the essence was the same. Lucy admitted that she was intoxicated and foolishly succumbed to his words. He began holding her hand while they walked, and in that moment, Lucy felt an immense burden of tension lifting from her shoulders, making her feel strangely comfortable. I won't delve into further explicit details of what she shared with me about what happened, but she told me everything, absolutely everything. She even mentioned that her guilty conscience kicked in when they were in the middle of the act, and she pushed him away. My mind was in a daze, and my body felt numb. She nudged me, seeking some reaction, but I remained silent. I asked her to give me a moment. She continued crying and apologizing. Eventually, I told her to go to sleep, and we would discuss the matter in the morning. She held on to me tightly, expressing her fear of losing me. I simply closed my eyes and lay there, replaying the situation in my mind repeatedly. I was reflecting on the events, until I distinctly recalled something that struck me as odd. Rick gave me a strange, unsettling grin after Lucy returned from their makeout session. Although I didn't pay much attention to it at the time, I suppose that was his triumphant smile, signifying that he had finally won her over. With that realization, I felt a surge of anger and disgust welling up inside me. I was too restless for self-pity, and the thought of sharing the bed with her became unbearable. I noticed that she had fallen into a deep slumber after hours of crying. I quietly slipped out of bed, gathered my laptop, wallet, and other essentials into a backpack, and left our home. I loved that woman. We had been married for 26 years, and I couldn't fathom a life without her. We had a family and children, but I couldn't stay. I knew her well, and if I had stayed until morning, she would have likely persuaded me against separation. So, I checked into a hotel and blocked her number along with all her social media accounts. It was already sunrise by the time I managed to fall asleep. Around 8 or 9 a.m., my phone started ringing incessantly with calls from my children. Lucy and I have 2 kids, a 24-year-old son and a 21-year-old daughter. Both of them are in college and live on the same campus. Now, after reading numerous stories, I realize I made a hasty decision to ghost Lucy that very night. I should have planned more carefully for my next steps to maintain control of the situation. I've come across stories where people pretended to act normally with their cheating partner while secretly plotting revenge and, eventually, exposing the affair. However, in my case, I couldn't have acted normally with Lucy after what she had done. She was not only my spouse but also my closest friend, my better half in every sense. Even if I had attempted to deceive her, she would have seen through it immediately, and I couldn't bear to pretend in front of her. The idea of Lucy cheating on me was the last thing I ever expected, so I had never devised a plan for how to handle such a situation. So when my children called me, I had no strategy for what to say, but I needed to speak to one of them before they went to the police to report me missing. I chose to call my son, who is typically more composed and mature than my daughter. I informed him that there was no gentle way to break the news other than to tell him that his mother had cheated on me the previous night, with her former lover or admirer, stalker, or whatever you want to call him. I explained that I needed some time to process everything. He was taken aback to hear that his own mother had committed such an act. Additionally, he knew that we had a strong, loving family, and we had always maintained a great relationship. Now, she had shattered that image. My children, as well as our relatives and friends, had always admired our close-knit, resilient, and proud family unit. He couldn't fathom the idea that his mother could do such a thing and kept insisting that there must be some misunderstanding. He repeatedly asked for the details and wanted everything explained in chronological order. However, I knew that going over all the details would shatter his spirit before he even had a chance to start his life. I expressed my wish that it were just a joke, but Mom had confessed her infidelity to me. He's 24 and has already experienced heartbreak, but I understand that this situation is taking a toll on him in a different way. I asked him to promise not to disclose this to anyone until I did. I sent a text to my daughter, explaining that I was stressed about work-related issues and would be out of town for some time, which put an end to the phone calls. So, the situation was as follows. While my daughter believed I was away on business, both my son and Lucy knew that I had separated from her. Over the next few days, I spent time online searching for the best lawyers and seeking a solution to my problem. That's when I came across one of these online communities where many men had experienced a similar fate to mine. I read about how they had planned their revenge and taken action against their cheating partners, including their anger towards the affair partner. I understand their feelings, I truly do. But seeking revenge on Lucy is the last thing I would consider in life. I still love her deeply, and I would be lying if I said I could destroy her life in such a way. I don't want to, but I also cannot be with her again. Reconciliation is not an option for me. I'm unsure how I'll navigate this situation, or if I'll ever recover from it. I have numerous responsibilities to handle: my work, my children, my assets, and more. I've scheduled an appointment with a lawyer for tomorrow, and I'll see what advice they have to offer. I'll provide an update as soon as I make progress. Hey everyone, thank you for all the support. While reading your comments, I realized that I missed sharing some important information. Both Lucy and I were management consultants, but in our late 40s, we both left our full-time jobs. Lucy pursued her long-standing passion for writing, and I became a business consultant for startups. As a self-employed individual, I don't have a fixed workplace. One of you mentioned concerns about Lucy potentially showing up at my workplace. Since I occasionally work from home or visit clients' offices, I consult for multiple clients simultaneously. So far, Lucy hasn't been able to locate me. As I mentioned earlier, I'm approaching 60, and we've been planning our retirement for a long time. We've been saving up to purchase a beach house in the countryside for our retirement years, with plans to buy it next year. We've even identified some properties and have been in discussions with property owners. Fortunately, we haven't made the purchase yet. Otherwise, it would have presented a different set of challenges. Lucy has been trying to contact me ever since I ghosted her. I met with the lawyer the day after my initial post, and he advised me to inform the children about the separation, given that they are adults. We also discussed the division of property, and I've decided to split it evenly between Lucy and myself. No, my retaliation wouldn't involve depriving Lucy of her wealth. She's entitled to half of our assets, and she's earned it. She's also entitled to the separation, which she too has earned. I understand her very well. She might be willing to relinquish her claim to the wealth to reconcile and keep our family together. While the divorce paperwork was being prepared, I met with my children. I asked my son to discreetly bring his sister to a restaurant without revealing that I would be there. He agreed. My daughter's reaction was intense. The moment she saw me, she bombarded me with questions. One of her questions was whether I was cheating on Mom, as she knew I had cut off contact with her. She was visibly upset, which pained me, but I had to remain strong for them and for what I was about to disclose. I calmed her down and reassured her that I wasn't involved with anyone else. Then, gradually, I disclosed the truth to them. Although my son was aware of it, he didn't know about my next steps. My daughter was devastated to learn that her mom had cheated on me. She had been living with Lucy for the past 15 days since I left the house. She hugged me and apologized for being angry with me. They both inquired if I could consider giving our marriage another chance, but I made it clear that I was pursuing a divorce. They both broke down emotionally. Witnessing their tears was heart-wrenching, but they understood my pain. They pledged to support me through this challenging period. I assured them that I was separating from their mom, not from them. Of course, my daughter informed me that Mom, Lucy, had not been eating or sleeping properly. She's been oscillating between crying and nervously pacing while trying to reach me endlessly. She even drove to several of my clients' offices to inquire about my whereabouts, but they all informed her that I hadn't visited their offices for 2 weeks. When our daughter asked her if something had happened between us, since it was the first time I had acted this way, Lucy didn't respond to her question. Instead, she continued to cry and moan while locking herself in her room. I requested my daughter to remain at home with her mom until our divorce is finalized. I can see their sorrow gradually transforming into anger when we discuss their mom. I can tell that they feel let down by her as well. I understand it. They've also suffered a loss. Our family is shattered, and there's one person responsible for it. However, I don't want or need them to harbor hatred towards their mother, so I insist that they offer her support. Here's something you won't believe. A few days later, I received a text from Rick inquiring about Lucy. He mentioned that if I was planning to divorce her after learning about her infidelity, he was willing to take her. I replied that Lucy was a free woman and could make her own choices. I blocked him afterward. I'm sure he messaged me to provoke me, but I felt the least anger towards him. I won't fall into his stalking tactics. I didn't marry, love, or trust him. All of that I did with Lucy, who betrayed me, affecting me deeply. I'm not insecure. He can have her if she desires. I'm least concerned about that. The divorce papers are supposed to be mailed today, and I'm still waiting for my daughter's call regarding Lucy's reaction. I'll provide an update once my divorce is finalized. In the meantime, I still have many matters to sort out: my assets, retirement, and my children's well-being. Hey everyone, I know it's been a while since my last update. I apologize for that. I had a long list of things to take care of. First and foremost, my divorce has been settled now. When Lucy received the divorce papers, she didn't take it well. She became unhinged. Until then, she had been living in a bubble where she believed I was merely angry and would return to her once my anger subsided. That bubble burst when she received the papers. She insisted that my lawyer arrange a meeting with me, but my lawyer declined. He stated that she was getting half of all the assets, which was more than she deserved. She responded by saying she didn't want any assets, only me. I told you I know her. She expressed her desire to meet me once before signing the divorce papers. She was confident in her abilities. She knew that if she had one FaceTime conversation with me, she could persuade me to reconsider the separation. She was right. If I had met her, I might have changed my mind. I still loved her and couldn't bear to see her deteriorate, but I couldn't set aside my self-respect. She took me for granted, tore apart our family for what? I won't delve into that abyss. I just want to say I couldn't endure living like that. My daughter wanted to meet with me urgently. She informed me that her mom's condition had worsened to the point where she had to be hospitalized. Lucy had fallen into a deep depression and was refusing any medication or supplements for her well-being. She had been admitted to the hospital and placed on a liquid diet because she had stopped eating altogether. I understand that many of you might perceive me as heartless and self-centered at this juncture, questioning whether I ever truly loved Lucy due to my apparent indifference to her declining health. My response is simple. Have you ever experienced betrayal? If not, you cannot fathom the pain I'm going through. To say that I loved and cherished my wife would be an understatement. I practically idolized her. I was her staunchest supporter and fan, and we've been together for almost 3 decades. She's the mother of my children. Rick was partially right. Finding a woman like Lucy is exceptionally challenging. She possesses intelligence, talent, empathy, and all the qualities one desires in a partner. Therefore, I made sure to treat her accordingly. But what did she do in return? She struck me at my most vulnerable point. I never imagined in my wildest dreams that she would betray me, let alone with Rick. A few days after Lucy received the divorce papers, Nancy reached out to me. She asked about my well-being and inquired about Lucy. I informed her that we were going through a separation. She didn't appear surprised and mentioned that she knew the reason. Later, she called me. During our conversation, Nancy asked how I had discovered the affair. I explained that Lucy had confessed to it. She expressed her regrets and revealed that she had tried to warn Lucy about Rick. Nancy had advised her not to go out with him, but Lucy had ignored her counsel. Nancy disclosed something that reinforced my confidence in my decision. Her account of the incident had a slight variation from what Lucy had told me. According to Nancy, she and Lucy were happily dancing when Rick joined them and began making advances toward Lucy. He whispered in her ear, which Lucy claimed was an apology from Rick. Nancy was uncomfortable with Rick's advances and attempted to intervene, but she noticed that Lucy suddenly seemed to enjoy his company. When Rick proposed going for a walk, Lucy looked to Nancy for guidance. Nancy strongly opposed the idea, as everyone knew how unsettling Rick could be. However, after some time, Lucy excused herself and went for a walk with Rick. Nancy wasn't too bothered by this because Lucy had also expressed interest in going with him. Nancy was having a good time with other friends when she realized Lucy hadn't returned. Concerned for Lucy's safety, she went out to search for them. Can you believe where she found them? In the changing room of the college swimming pool. But where did Lucy claim they were? Out on the lawn. Nancy revealed that she caught them in the act, and they only stopped when Lucy spotted Nancy approaching them. So it wasn't Lucy's guilty conscience that halted things. It was Nancy who interrupted them. Up until this point, I still held some pride in Lucy for owning up to her mistakes and confessing them to me promptly. It gave me a sense of closure despite her devastating betrayal. I believed her story that she got carried away because of alcohol, and her conscience stopped her. However, it became clear that Lucy didn't cheat because she was drunk. She did it because she wanted to. The college swimming pool was at least a 15-minute walk from where we were, and the changing rooms were deep inside the facility. You don't just end up there accidentally. It was a deliberate choice on her part. After sharing her side of the story, Nancy asked if I could see myself giving Lucy another chance to rebuild our relationship. Since Lucy had confessed and been completely honest about her mistakes. The thing is, Nancy didn't know that Lucy's version of the confession was different, and I didn't clarify or respond to her question. Despite Lucy's miserable condition, she had lied to me, and that's when I lost all respect for her. Meanwhile, my children informed me that Lucy's condition was deteriorating, and she was on the brink of self-harm. Upon hearing this, I called Nancy and explained our previous conversation where I had been told a different story by Lucy. I asked Nancy to visit Lucy and have an open conversation with her. Lucy had been keeping her secret locked up, causing her immense suffering. I also instructed Nancy to inform Lucy that I was now aware of the actual truth of that night and had no intention of forgiving her or taking her back. It was in Lucy's best interest to prioritize her health, because I knew she was intentionally harming herself in hopes of reconciliation. After all, I know her, don't I? Nancy paid Lucy a visit and provided me with an update. While Lucy has not fully recovered from her weakness and depression, my daughter mentioned that she's doing considerably better. Additionally, Lucy has gone ahead and signed the divorce papers, which was a significant relief for me. My plan is to wrap up my pending work and embark on a solo journey. I've decided to abandon my previous idea of settling down in one place because that would drive me insane. I acknowledge that I haven't handled the situation as perfectly as some folks in this community who faced similar circumstances, but I've done the best I could. Let's wait and see what the future holds. I'll keep all of you updated. Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. It's been a year since my last update. I wish I could say time has flown by, but it hasn't felt that way for me. I spent a few months in a motel and later rented a condo for a few more months until my divorce was finalized. As for my work, as I had planned, I gradually transitioned to clients with whom I could work remotely 100%. Regarding the money that Lucy and I had saved for our retirement home, she received 50% of it, and I distributed the remaining 50%, which was my share, evenly between my 2 adult children. I don't have a need for it, and they are responsible enough to put that money to good use. As for Lucy, she is still undergoing therapy. Nancy maintains regular contact with Lucy and occasionally checks in on me. She shared something surprising about Lucy that I never expected. Keep in mind that this information comes from Nancy, who is still supportive of Lucy, so take it with a grain of salt, but she has no reason to deceive me. Here's the revelation. Brace yourself. Despite my repeated claims that I know Lucy well, even after her infidelity, hearing this made me question whether I ever truly knew her. I always considered Lucy a strong woman with a resilient mind, but it seems that loneliness took a toll on her. Lucy began chatting with Rick, and he reciprocated by expressing his love for her until he learned about our divorce. Strangely, as soon as he found out, he started acting strangely and essentially ghosted her. Lucy was heartbroken to discover that Rick stopped communicating with her after she informed him about the divorce. She reminded him of his claims of love and desire to be with her despite everything. It turned out that he was merely flirting with Lucy for a casual physical relationship, which he got. He stated that he couldn't commit to a marriage or any emotional relationship with Lucy because she's such a strong-willed woman. For those who know Lucy, it's nearly unbelievable that she pleaded with Rick for a relationship. She couldn't have stooped lower because everyone knew Rick to be unsavory. Rick revealed his true intentions by admitting that he was only interested in a physical relationship, while Lucy sought emotional support, not just physical intimacy. He mentioned having a live-in partner and being content with that arrangement. It appears that all of his love and admiration were insincere. When Lucy and Rick had a disagreement, he concluded it with a hurtful remark. He indirectly taunted Lucy by suggesting that he had succeeded in deceiving her. He claimed that he thought Lucy was intelligent, yet he managed to trick her, implying that he was the cleverer of the two. This caused her to sink deeper into depression, as she had lost everything by falling for his deceitful lies. The last update I received about Lucy was a couple of weeks ago. My daughter had been staying with Lucy since I moved out of the house. She needed someone's company to help her cope with her depression. However, after living with her for a year, my daughter realized that she could no longer coexist with Mom, as Lucy had become extremely difficult. Lucy, who was once emotionally resilient, has transformed into an insecure and erratic individual who constantly seeks the presence and attention of others. She has also become delusional and disoriented. Lucy has morphed into a controlling and possessive mother. She bombards my children with calls and messages if they don't respond promptly. She even insisted that my son move in with her until he got married, but he declined her request. She has been pressuring my daughter to spend time at home instead of going out with friends or taking vacations. My children are no longer kids, they are adults now and can't be restricted. Whenever my daughter tried to address Lucy's intrusive behavior, Lucy would break down and express her fear of losing them, especially after losing me. My children reassured her that they had no intention of abandoning her and were doing their best to help her cope with her depression. However, they warned her that if she continued to be so controlling, they might have to reconsider. This led to heated arguments, with the children accusing her of not supporting them during her most challenging times. This behavior is unfamiliar to me, and my children are equally perplexed by it. Ultimately, they had to confront her, explaining that it was her actions that had disrupted our once happy and loving family. What was once a harmonious and safe family environment is now fractured and distorted. It was difficult for her to accept that her own children held her responsible for everything. My daughter moved out of the house 2 weeks ago. She informed me that she had tried her best to assist Lucy, but she couldn't put her life on hold to care for her. I believe my daughter's decision was reasonable. She needs to move forward with her life, and Lucy needs to regain control of her own life. While some might take satisfaction in seeing their cheating ex-wife in misery in their 20 seconds or 30 seconds, I couldn't find happiness in this situation. I felt genuinely sorry for her condition. Her poor choices have condemned her to a lifetime of suffering. I hope she can rediscover her former self, a confident, strong woman who doesn't need to rely on people like Rick for emotional support. As for my own journey, I've spent the past year living in 4 different countries, exploring local cultures, savoring diverse cuisines, and immersing myself in entirely new lifestyles has been a great experience. Initially, I was disappointed that my retirement plans had to take a different path. I had always envisioned spending my golden years in peaceful harmony with Lucy. However, now I find satisfaction in having embraced various cultures and lifestyles. I've had the privilege of meeting incredible people in different corners of the world. To clarify, I haven't entered into any new relationships, nor am I actively seeking one at the moment. I'll remain open to whatever the future has in store for me, and I'll keep you updated if anything significant unfolds. Hello everyone, I apologize for not providing updates over the past few years. The truth is, not much noteworthy has occurred in the last 2.5 years except for my extensive travels to more than a dozen countries and my renewed passion for painting. Initially, I initiated this thread to share my story about my cheating wife, and there didn't seem to be a point in updating it with my travel experiences, so I refrained from doing so. However, there has been an event that prompted me to write this update. Last month, after 4 years, I had the opportunity to meet Lucy again. This reunion was due to my son's upcoming wedding. Yes, my son has found the love of his life and decided to tie the knot. He called me 2 months prior to the wedding and expressed his desire for Lucy and me to meet the girl's parents. Initially, I was hesitant and suggested that I could meet them directly at the wedding. However, I realized that it wasn't about me, it was about fulfilling my responsibilities as a father. The girl's parents graciously hosted a dinner for us a week before the wedding. Although I hadn't confirmed my attendance, I decided to join at the last moment. It was somewhat challenging to see Lucy in this context, as I would have preferred to have one of us attend. Nevertheless, I understood that I needed to be there for my son. Upon my arrival, Lucy seemed surprised. She appeared different, and her eyes conveyed that she had undergone some changes. She greeted me with a polite smile, but I could sense that she was feeling tense. Throughout the years, she had always maintained her long, thick hair, even as we grew older, but it seemed she had aged more than expected during those 4 years. Interestingly, they seated us next to each other at the table, making me suspect that our son hadn't informed them that this would be our first encounter in years. It's worth noting that this situation posed no issue. In front of others, she remained silent, but as soon as we had a chance to talk privately, she commented that I appeared healthier and happier. I acknowledged it, attributing it to cutting off all the toxicity from my life. This caught her off guard momentarily, and she glanced around to ensure no one overheard us. She inquired if I was in a relationship, but I evaded the question, stating that my relationship status shouldn't concern her. During our conversation, I barely made eye contact with her, focusing my attention on everyone else primarily. After the dinner, when it was time to leave, I bid everyone good night with hugs, but I simply nodded my farewell to Lucy, telling her to take care. I suppose she didn't anticipate that, as she also stood up when I was saying my goodbyes to everyone. It happened quickly, so I don't think it was too awkward for the others. Surprisingly, my interaction with Lucy was quite uneventful. She seemed either intimidated by me or too anxious to engage in more open conversation. Whether she was overthinking or not, I didn't dwell on it much. After leaving the gathering and stepping outside, my son accompanied me and offered for me to spend the next few days with him, but I declined, assuring him I would call. I then drove to my hotel. By the way, I don't have a permanent residence. I'm mostly out of town, and when I'm in town, I stay in a motel. Transitioning into a nomadic lifestyle after being a family man for 26 years was challenging, but I've grown accustomed to this adventurous life, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Aside from my family situation, I have another update. I now have a companion. Yes, during my visit to Tokyo 2 years ago, I met Ashleen, who is 52 years old. She had recently come out of an abusive relationship and was savoring her first solo trip. We connected while hiking up a mountain. We became friends because neither of us was seeking a romantic relationship at the time. After our time in Tokyo, I was about to head to South Korea while she was heading to Thailand. We stayed in touch for the next 6 months and eventually decided to plan our trips together. For the past 1.5 years, we have been traveling together to over 8 countries. We became travel companions and didn't rush into anything physical or emotional during the initial 2 months of our travels. We both took our time getting to know each other better, and we were clear from the start that we didn't want to get married. For now, we want to relish the experience of traveling and exploring different places. My children were aware of Ashleen, but they chose not to disclose this to Lucy, fearing it might trigger her depression again. After arriving at the hotel, I called my son to explain why I declined his invitation to stay with him. I informed him that Ashleen had accompanied me to town, and I couldn't leave her alone. I expressed my desire for Ashleen to attend the wedding. He was excited but also apprehensive about Lucy's reaction. I emphasized that Ashleen should be at the wedding because she's my partner and should meet my family. My son added his sister, my daughter, to the call to get a second opinion, but mostly to discuss it among the 3 of us. She agreed with me that Ashleen should meet the family. The wedding was a week away, so I used that time to give Ashleen a city tour since it was her first visit to Kentucky. Now, on the day of the wedding, as soon as we arrived, I noticed Lucy already staring at me. She was visibly upset when she saw me holding hands with Ashleen at the wedding venue. I had already warned Ashleen about the possibility of Lucy's unpleasant behavior, but she assured me she could handle the situation. This was the first time I witnessed how controlling Lucy had become since our separation. She rushed toward us and grabbed my wrist, attempting to pull me aside. I firmly told her that I didn't want a private conversation with her. She questioned if Ashleen was my girlfriend or if I planned to marry her. I replied that it shouldn't concern her and asked her to leave us alone because the guests were arriving, and some were noticing Lucy's tears and anger. She insisted that she didn't care about anyone else and needed to resolve this matter one way or another. My daughter intervened and tried to calm her mom down, but Lucy refused to go with her. We pointed out that she was disrupting the wedding. She responded loudly that she didn't care. At this point, my usually gentle daughter turned into a force to be reckoned with. She didn't just lose her temper, she gave Lucy a stern talking to that I never expected from our daughter. In a hushed yet commanding tone, she told her mom, "Yes, Mom, you were supposed to walk into the wedding on Dad's arm and be with Dad, but you chose to be with some random guy. So either accept it and move on right now, or I'm going to make sure you're kicked out of the wedding before it even begins." I almost wanted to intervene, as it's natural for a parent to do so when they see their child in distress, but my daughter was tougher than I could ever be when it came to her mom. As she pointed her finger at Lucy and meant every word, I felt the tension in Lucy's grip on my wrist release. I saw Lucy's face quiver as she let go of me, and she stared at me for 3 seconds. During that time, her expression shifted from anger to betrayal to sadness. She didn't say a word, but her face revealed a whirlwind of emotions. After this, Lucy walked away. Needless to say, she didn't introduce herself to Ashleen. On a positive note, my daughter apologized to Ashleen, who then hugged us. I reassured her that there was no need to apologize. My daughter is strong, and I'm proud of her. I could see that my daughter was emotional when she said, "It's on her, Dad. We've suffered enough. She needs to move on or leave you alone." Lucy had made everyone's life miserable, yet she had expected sympathy and care from some friends over the years. My children don't have a family home to gather in for special occasions, and I acknowledge my responsibility for that. During the rest of the wedding, Lucy grew increasingly upset that our children were supportive of me. She either stood in a corner or appeared more excluded than a mother of the groom should be. She didn't even join us for the family photo. Nancy called me a few days ago and mentioned that Lucy had taken this as a blow to her ego, seeing me move on in life so quickly while she remained single. I told Nancy that my children and I are done with Lucy's drama, and she's on her own. She can do as she pleases. I just want to enjoy the remaining years of my life in peace. I'm considering staying closer to my kids and providing them with a family home to gather peacefully. Even though they're grown up, this wedding made me realize that a new stage of life is approaching, and I might become a grandparent. However, I won't be sharing that with Lucy, and I'm perfectly fine with that. We'll see if Ashleen is willing when the time comes. I want to express my gratitude for the advice and the genuine experiences shared by some of you. I wish you all to remain loyal and true to your spouses. If not for yourselves or your partners, do it for your children. Life is good, and there's always more to enjoy. Take care.